Hello dear viewers, welcome to this edition of the News in English on Rwanda Television. My name is Sarah Hori. We'll begin with the headlines. President Paul Kagame has expressed confidence in the Washington Accord for Peace and Prosperity. Prime Minister Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva has joined other heads of state and government at the inauguration ceremony of Côte d'Ivoire's president. Now straight to the details. I'm glad you're able to join us. President Paul Kagame has told Al Jazeera that he is confident that the Washington peace agreement will result positively, while emphasizing that its success depends on the commitment of the parties that signed it. Adam Squizera with the details on that.
In an interview with Al Jazeera's Steve Clemons, President Paul Kagame addressed several issues, with a particular focus on the Washington Accords. The head of state highlighted the role of the U.S. in helping address this crisis, starting from the root causes of the conflict.
The story about the conflict goes a long way, many years, and we have never had anything like this where there is focus, there is attention to this level, where the two leaders of the two countries, Rwanda and DRC, have come to meet with the President of the United States, who has paid attention to this program, and the amount of visibility, energy, maybe pressure, and to resolve this problem has never been like this before. And then the basis on which it is being addressed is also interesting. It really touches elements that are fundamental if one wants to address this conflict, starting with understanding the root cause, but also building on the three elements they brought up, which is political, security, economic. I think it captures everything, at least in terms of the theory. What remains is the practice or the implementation part of it. That's where always the complications arise from.
President Kagame also clarified the mediation process, explaining that it was the government of DRC that requested the mediation.
Internal dialogue matters went to Qatar, and that came following my meeting with President Tshisekedi in Doha, by the way, on his own request. Even with the US, it was his own request. And in fact, the other African leaders and countries were blaming Rwanda, thinking that we are the ones who left the African processes, initiatives, and went to Qatar or came here to Washington. But it was the very man, Tshisekedi, DRC, who actually initiated that. But the hope for him was he would be able to manipulate either the process in Qatar or the process in Washington, D.C. in his favor, because he thinks DRC is too great, too big, that the whole world is interested in having a portion of what they possess, and that he would go paying his way and manipulating people to get the results he wanted. So, but when it came to us and we were invited to participate either in Doha and here in Washington, we always came forward, but we told people what we thought were the facts and the fundamental issues that must be addressed if we are to look at the root causes.
In this interview, the head of state pointed out the role of the international community in wrongly attributing the security issues in eastern DRC to Rwanda, while deliberately ignoring the long-standing collaboration between the DRC government and the genocidal militia, FDLR.
Just trying to play a blame game against Rwanda and then cover up everything else that goes on under that, like even support for FDLR and many things that happen. But this includes some international players. When we are talking about this, we don't just mean Burundi, Uganda, or whatever, no. We mean these big countries in the Western Hemisphere. They are part of that. And the way they play the game of covering up for FDLR and the tragedy that happened in Rwanda and try to apportion, responsibility elsewhere is staggering. You can't understand why that would happen. And then this translates also then in the blame game around minerals or lack of stability in our region. But if you look at also the whole region, we have protected our country, we have continued to grow it and made sure that we are not part of the instability or the source of it, because you can't do that. At the same time, you want to create a better environment for yourself. So, but people keep dragging us into this for their own reasons I don't understand.
President Kagame further expressed the confidence that the mediation led by the US President Donald Trump will help produce meaningful progress in resolving the crisis.
I like people for wanting to have results and making, but there are many people in this world who say nice things and end up with nothing, and have made it a habit for so many years. But the people you might blame for this or that, sometimes they are practical in getting the results, and like in this case, we stand a much bigger chance to have good results of resolving the problems in our region and between the DRC and Rwanda than I have known before, because before there was too much talking about and blame game, played around for too long, but ending up with nothing. President Trump has taken it up, and hopefully, we can only be hopeful that, but he shows good intention, he wants to try, so we should support this to succeed, knowing that he's not the one to deliver the good results 100%, while those of us who are party to this are sitting back and not doing our part.
On December 4th, the presidents of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo signed the Washington Peace and Prosperity Accords, following the accords signed on June 27th this year by the foreign ministers of both countries. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
The President of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Domitille Mukantaganzwa, stressed that Rwanda is giving priority to a policy of mediation and plea agreements in the justice system as some of the approaches that will help the country to speed up trials. She emphasized this during a press conference during the launch of activities for the country's Justice Week, which is now being held for the 7th time countrywide. Some of the activities marking the start of the week include conducting selected trials in public. Justice Week will involve all courts, the prosecution, the Rwanda Investigation Bureau, the Rwanda Correctional Service, the Rwanda National Police, the Ministry of Justice, the Rwanda Bar Association, and the Association of Independent Mediators. The theme of this year is mediation in resolving cases a pillar of fair, fast, and solution-oriented justice. Since 2022, when the policy of resolving disputes outside the courts was introduced, it has contributed between 10 and 15% in reducing the number of court cases. This year alone, the Rwanda Investigation Bureau has completed over 2,800 cases, that is, case files, through mediation, while the prosecution in the 2024-2025 fiscal year handled more than 11,000 plea agreement cases and completed around 3,800 cases through mediation. As part of the second phase of the country's national strategy for transformation under the governance pillar, the government committed to reducing the backlog of court cases by up to half. Now, Prime Minister Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva has joined other heads of state and government, most of them from the African continent, at the inauguration ceremony of the President of Côte d'Ivoire, His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, following his victory in the country's elections held in October. The Prime Minister represented the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Kagame, at the ceremony. This is the fourth time that the President of Côte d'Ivoire has been sworn in to lead the country, having been elected with 89.7% of the ballots cast. In the speech that followed his swearing in, President Alassane Ouattara thanked the dignitaries that attended the ceremony and assured his citizens that he will work to strengthen unity among the people of the nation. The inauguration ceremony was attended by more than 10 heads of state from across the African continent, government representatives, and other dignitaries. Now, Rwandans and Congolese who frequently cross the Bugarama-Kamanyola border post are pleased that their movements and activities on both sides have resumed. This follows fighting that took place in the DRC's Kamanyola area last week, which forced more than 1,000 Congolese to flee their homes and cross into Rwanda. People from both sides of the border agree that hope in the restoration of security is the foundation for strengthening trade and cross-border relations. Since Sunday, no new refugees have crossed the border into Rwanda, and the mayor of Rusizi district has given reassurances that those who have already been received in Rwanda will continue to be assisted. Currently, the number of Congolese being hosted at the temporary Rushishi camp stands at 698 as they await to return to their country. Now, with Tuesday being International Anti-Corruption Day, residents from various parts of the southern province say they want corruption to be completely eradicated among certain local leaders and private sector actors who continue to make citizens struggle to access services because they refuse to give bribes, which are now disguised under various names. To address the problem, the Office of the Ombudsman, together with local government institutions across the country, has been conducting anti-corruption week activities. A 2025 corruption survey shows that in services involving the acquisition of construction permits, bribery occurred at a rate of 22.9%, down from 36.6% in 2024. And local officials say they will continue to intensify efforts to fight corruption. This year's Rwanda Bribery Index has revealed that the sectors most affected by corruption include the private sector, local government institutions, and the Rwanda Energy Group. The Chief Ombudsman of Rwanda, Madeleine Nirere, has therefore urged citizens to provide information and contribute to combating the vice. Transparency International Rwanda has reported that the national average level of corruption has fallen to 14.6%, down from 18.5% last year. Rwanda remains among the leading countries in fighting corruption globally, ranking first in the EAC, third on the African continent, and 43rd worldwide. Now, loan providers in microfinance institutions indicate that the negative effects of poor farming seasons are among the factors causing delays in loan repayment in these institutions, where the default rate stands at 3.4% compared to 2.6% in commercial banks, according to the 2024-2025 report of the National Bank of Rwanda. And Ola Gladys Wenimana with the details.
The agriculture and livestock sector receives 6% of all loans issued by financial institutions in general. Yet it is the leading sector in terms of loans provided by microfinance institutions. Among them are borrowers in agriculture, livestock and business areas where repayment delays are frequently observed. Management of various microfinance institutions confirms that most of the loans are invested in agriculture and livestock, which is why some of these loans experience delays in repayment.
Our portfolio of 21 billion last year, where that almost 7 billion was in agriculture. Then if you look across where that it increased, but if you look at across the all microfinance sector, where that there's an agricultural product, you always find as if there's a challenge in terms of weather, the season, and if you look at such a circumstances that are not avoidable circumstances, you end up finding that your client are not able to get enough products, and you have the payment modalities will change. But we agree with our client, we discuss, then we can see if need be, we can always adjust accordingly, because we also understand the circumstances of the business.
Out of 6,357,109 members of the 457 microfinance institutions, only about 20% use the financial services offered by these institutions. The executive director of the Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda, Jackson Kwikiriza, says that 575,327 loans worth 513 billion Rwandan francs have so far been issued by these institutions. However, he notes that they are pleased to see that delayed loan repayments are gradually decreasing.
It has dropped significantly, and for as long as it is below 5% as the benchmark set by the National Bank, then it is always good. Our wish is to have a zero, the NPL, or 1 or 2, but once it is below 5%, it is always good. Some of the reasons behind that is depending on who do we serve, the clients of MFIs. Most of the clients in MFIs are what we call, they are in agriculture. Most of them are in agriculture, others are in trade or business, and others in service. So in agriculture, we have unpredictable situations. We have climate change that we have been seeing, either prolonged drought or maybe high rain that lead to floods. So that leads to sometimes destruction of crops and yields, and eventually affect the clients that are supposed to be paying on time.
The 2024-2025 report of the National Bank of Rwanda shows that loan repayment delays in commercial banks stand at 2.6%, down from below 5% in June 2024, while in microfinance institutions, the rate is 3.4%, down from 5% in June 2024. A loan is considered to be in arrears when 90 days have passed without the borrower paying the required monthly installment on the loan they took from the financial institutions.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this edition of the news. I do hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.